Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. True indeed. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Welcome, family, once again to another episode of Building with Big King, where you came here to build with me as we build our new high vibrational frequency paradigm now and forward. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Yes, indeed. True indeed, folks. I tell you what, I'm going to do like I do often. Let's open this up with a little Big King Sadiq music while we have the family pile on in. Come on in, everybody. Announce yourselves in the chat. We did it all together. Yeah. Yeah. Come on in. I'm waiting on you.
Attack the while he spoke, attack the while he sleep. He's just marching brutally, turned it into something sweet. Nothing stopping the juggernaut once he set in motion. Evil clown bomb down, the right back to school coasting. Dude posing a little too close, then cramping my style. I play the speaker close while I'm cracking a smile. After all, what's a party? Should be dancing and smoking, laughing and joking, having fun and keeping it open. All together, all together, all together. We finally made it wild. We did it all together. We finally made it now. We can enjoy it forever. We finally made it now. Can we just all connect? All this beauty for my life of peace, love, respect. We finally made it wild. We did it all together. We finally made it now.
We can enjoy it forever.
Can we just all connect? All this beauty for my life of peace, love, respect. Love looking good, yeah. Fellas, show your area love.
Come on in, family. It's karma. You was waiting on me. Come on in. Thank you, family. Brother Sean Anchor in there. I see you, man, holding it down. Brother Sean, what's up, family? Sister Marvin, what's going on? Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. We want to talk about a few things tonight. Yes, indeed. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being with me. Hope we have a couple more people file in. This song on my album was called All Together. Worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. Man, I love you all. Thank you, truly. We got the forum going again. The family's back to talk about a couple of things tonight. And that's all right. That's all right. All right, folks. Well, we'll let everybody else still keep chiming in, right? Filing in. But let's start talking a little bit. Today's subject, I think, is a very interesting one, right? I know it's one that has honestly been on my mind for probably about 3 decades or more, right? Because that's just the way I think, and I kind of always been this way, really. Today, we're going to be talking about the fact that healing limitations have been indoctrinated into people. Okay? Now, what do you mean by that, Big King? Well, let's talk about it. First of all, anybody else that coming on in, please announce yourselves. We love to welcome you to the conversation. I thank you personally. I love you and appreciate you. Go ahead and announce yourself in the chat, please. I'd love to formally welcome you to the conversation. But you participate only as much as you want, folks. Never feel, like forced or pressure. But I do love truly love to hear from your point of view and get all of your perspective. It truly helps me and us all to grow, right? Um, so yeah, healing limitations, right? Our physical body's ability to heal itself. The limitations that we have grown accustomed to are artificial and have been indoctrinated into us. All right. Um, and I can offer you some proof of that. But let's just get into talking about it. Have you ever, folks? I know for me, like I said, I've thought about this subject probably for over 3 decades, maybe 4, right? Um, I've wondered as looking at the rest of nature, right? Other animals, whether they be land roaming animals, sea bearing, or aquatic life, right? Or the insect world, right? The bird aviary kingdom, all throughout nature. If you observe, and I certainly have throughout my life, and a lot more intensively in more recent years, but if you observe nature, you see profound healing abilities and examples of being able to heal one's own physical vessel, all the way up to and including regeneration of whole limbs, right? You see that prevalent, like look at crabs, they could have a claw completely taken off, right? A portion of their arm or maybe even a whole arm taken off in combat, only to later regenerate it, right? We see the same things in lizards. I remember when I was in high school, we used to experiment with how salamanders could have a tail removed and just grow it right back like it was nothing, right? But human beings, that's not the case, right? Or we've grown into a paradigm where that's simply not the case, where we do not have the ability to heal ourselves rapidly at all, let alone to regenerate any major limbs, right? This has been long something that we have accepted to be just part of our natural limitations. Um, and it's simply not so. Have we thought about the fact that our bodies have more neural connections, right? Your nervous system breaks all the way down to the neural connections that we have, where neurons are communicated to, right? And our brains from everywhere in our body that we have a nerve connection. And folks, there are innumerable nerve connections in your body, in your bodies. I've heard it said and estimated that there are more neural connections in our body than there are stars in the sky. If you could take a moment and ponder that, right? Um, Human beings have a level of connectivity in our body that is unparalleled, right? The way in which our cells communicate um, at incredible speeds and at a level um, that is really unparalleled in nature, right? Um, we find ourselves meeting or running up against limitations that we have begun to learn to perceive as normal, right? Um, but have we stopped to think about limitations like the need for certain physical requisites, right? Why do we not have a great ability to control our hunger patterns, for example, our eating patterns? Why are we not able to have control over our sleeping patterns, right? These are basic, excuse me, human functions that we should very well have full control over, but find ourselves lacking. Um, when it comes to healing, we can receive a cut, right? Accidentally somewhere in life, we get a cut. Let's say you have a cut on your finger, right? I remember one time I was using an extremely sharp knife and took a wrong, sort of not a wrong or a mistaken stroke, but took a stroke that was off target. And I ended up slicing downward into my finger so far that it was an extremely sharp knife, and I actually sliced down to the bone, right? I later had to get that stitched up. But most certainly, without a long gestation period or a period of time, should I say, passing, that cut healed completely. And I mean almost literally without a trace now. But this was once the location of a cut that literally went down to the bone, right? At the time that it happened, you could see the gash like wide open and literally see the flesh and then the actual bone, right? I'm laughing, but at the time it wasn't so funny, you might imagine. But I say that to say that there are many examples where our body's magnificent healing potential rises to the surface, right? For example, I myself personally was diagnosed with no less than 5 major illnesses for which I was prescribed medication. All right. That would be diabetes, high blood pressure, hyperthyroidism, chronic back pain, and chronic gum disease. Now, while I have suffered some issues with gum disease, I've overcome that without the trajectory of damage that they had foreseen for me. Folks, I was told personally that every tooth in my mouth would fall out soon and therefore would be better pulled out or extracted professionally by a dentist. Okay. I wasn't going that route. And I mean, they were calling for wholesale extraction, right? They wanted literally all of my teeth out of my mouth and wanted to extract them 9 teeth at a time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teeth at a time. They wanted to extract from my mouth. I wasn't with that, folks. And when I stopped using fluoride toothpaste and some of the other toxins that I was permitting to enter into my mouth, once I cut all of that out and no longer adhere to the usage of fluoride toothpaste and some other things that I had to remove from my body and exposure to my mouth. Once I did that, then I found some of those issues clearing up naturally on their own, right? Folks, there was a time where I woke up in the AM with a mouth literally full of blood. I don't mean one incident. I mean, there was a time period where this would occur, right? Literally from my gums bleeding all night long. I would wake up in the AM with either a mouthful of blood or choking on blood or so much blood backed up into my throat that I was literally almost throwing up blood clots. I'm not saying this to gross anyone out. I'm sorry, folks. I know it was a bit graphic, but you need to know that this is the result of my exposure to fluoride toothpaste and some other toxins, some of which prescribed to me by dentists, right? First of all, think about that in itself. fluoride, folks, with a little bit of research we've uncovered, is in fact itself a toxin, right? It is also one of the ingredients in a rather nefarious narcotic, and that is thorazine, right? And where do we get such harmful usage in practices where we utilize such a harmful chemical solution as fluoride, right? Well, folks, we can look no further than our German German-born folks, and I'm not saying all Germans. I'm referring specifically to the Germans who affiliated themselves with the doctrine and the organization of the Nazi Party, right? Because it is the Nazis who pretty much brought us fluoride like it was a gift, right? And introduced it into mainstream usage in the United States, right? It was utilized in concentration camps against the Jewish population as a way to, as a toxin, as a direct toxin, um, uh, as a means of shortening their lifespan, and some of the other direct um, ill effects of fluoride in their mouths, right? And also, it's used a bit as a sedative, not as a sedative, more as a what's the word I want to be using with that? Almost like a depressant or a suppressant, right? Um, but yeah, folks, this is something that is very dangerous and at use in most homes in our country. Um, but other healing limitations, there are more bold or pronounced limitations, I would say, that come to mind for me. For example, a broken arm, right? Um, how about an arm that has been ripped off? Folks, again, I don't mean to be graphic for the sake of grossing anyone out, but like there have been tragic accidents, like, someone's arm being ripped off, arm accidentally by an elevator that it got caught in, or something of that nature, or in a wood chipper, or something drastic, right? But potentially something that could happen. Um, why would a human being not have the ability to fully regenerate a detached limb like an arm or a leg or even a hand? Why is that an impossibility? Well, because you've been told it is. What do you mean, Big King? Okay. What is involved with the regeneration of a limb like an arm, for example? You're talking about rapid cell regeneration, okay? Um, and we're talking about multiple types of cells that need to be regenerated, right? We know there's blood tissue that needs to be regenerated, blood cells. There's certainly skin tissue that needs to be regenerated, muscular fibers that need to be regenerated, right? The fibers that would make up your tendons and other elastic parts near your joints, right? Um, Bone is in more than one layer. There's the outer shell of a bone, or the you could call it the crust of a bone, so to speak, or down in through the bone marrow itself, right? Um, we know that human beings have the ability to heal and for those types of cells to regenerate. And we accept that on a limited basis, i.e., you have a broken arm and you get a cast on it, and maybe it's put into a sling, and you wait for a certain amount of time until a certain level of healing is taking place, and you can then remove the cast and you have now a limb that has been healed, right? The bone has been set back in place. You had the cast wrapped around it. X amount of time went by, probably a couple of weeks, right? Maybe 2 weeks to 4 weeks or something that looks like that. And then the arm heals completely. Now, let me ask you, if your body is capable of orchestrating the regeneration of all those different types of cells that go into the makeup of an arm, why then are you incapable of regeneration of an arm? Where do the limitations come from that tell your hand, for example, that it's okay to grow, to regenerate or produce or reproduce the cells that would be necessary to cause a deep cut to heal, for example? Where is the line drawn between that level of healing and actual limb regeneration? Right? Where is that line of limitation drawn? Is it just mental? Is it a mental physical line? Is it something that is learned, right? That has been engraved in us that we can sort of deprogram ourselves out of, right? If I was capable of telling my body that I did not need the medication for the high blood pressure, I did not need the medication for the diabetes, I did not need the hyperthyroid medication, right? I didn't need any of the medications that were prescribed to me. So why did my body then heal in the ways that I was instructed by doctors that I would need medication to assist me in? How was I able to accomplish that? But yet I have. For I do not have diabetes, I do not have high blood pressure, and I do not suffer from hyperactive thyroid disease, right? I have had in the past certain physical aches and pains that had proved to be something that I was not able to find my own remedy for without some form of artificial assistance like medication. I no longer live in that paradigm, right? There is no medication I'm taking nor anything that comes up as a physical issue for me that I feel I need outside interference with or outside assistance with. I simply communicate directly. And folks, I'm not exaggerating my process. I literally communicate directly to my cells. In fact, I communicate with my body down to the atomic, nay, the subatomic level, down to the neutrino level. I have active communication with every atom in my body, right? Knowing that there's consciousness there. I'm talking about and referring all the way down to the neutrino level. Those neutrinos, those subatomic parts of my body have consciousness and are aware. Now, what we need to understand is that consciousness is not limited in its ability to influence the physical realm. In other words, a 3D, 4D environment. Okay? We are not limited nearly as much as we perceive ourselves to be. So, my question is why? Why do we perceive that? Why do we have it stuck in our brain that it's not something that a human being can do to regrow your teeth? Why? Why is that limitation there? Why do you just get baby teeth, then adult teeth, and you can't grow teeth anymore? I'm going to prove that to be a farce when I regrow some of my teeth. Mark my words that I've stated I will do that. I will also, here's another, this is to show you the change in thinking where I'm going. Years ago, I had severely broken my left leg. I mean, so a severe break. It was I think I was told it was a complex compound fracture. Okay. Folks, so you know, I was in a cast for like 3.5 months. Okay. Not 3.5 weeks or days, but 3.5 months. And I went from several different types of casts, the whole nine. I had to, by the time I came out of a cast, my leg was like half the size. My left leg was like half the size of my right leg. Okay. Severe atrophy. Um, had to really learn to walk and use that leg again. It was a process. Now, what I need to know is if I was able to heal a bone break that severe, meaning that I needed to regenerate the blood cells, the skin cells, right? The muscular tissue, right? Um, so many different forms of cellular regeneration needed to take place in order for me to be able to say that I do not suffer from these different ailments. All right. Um, but still we're wondering where and why do the limitations come in? Well, let's talk about a different form of limitation on our physical body. All right. Our lifespan. Now, scientists have uncovered that indeed there's a reason why you see the number 120 thrown around in association with our lifespan. It is because, folks, and I state this as scientific fact, we are the products of genetic manipulation. Okay? There is an area of our evolution that simply does not make sense or correspond to the evolutionary trajectory or pace of just about any other being that we find on the planet, or that we find in any other form or version of man. We have what they refer to as, we have what scientists have pondered about for years. I've heard about this from Darwinian minds. You like me throwing that out there, don't you? The Darwinians. Right? From Darwinian minds, we've heard for the longest that there is a missing link. What are they referring to, folks? They're talking about a link in that would bridge that gap. There is an area, a time, a part or a phase of our evolution that was estimated to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years out of place, meaning that it happened too fast. Okay. And it could not have occurred naturally, which suggests artificial evolution. What is artificial evolution, folks? It is evolution occurs at the genetic level. So if it's not natural and it's artificial, someone else perpetrated it. Don't take my word for it, folks. Do the research and you'll see these things to be true and evident. Okay? So part of our genetic interference was that our telomeres we're capped. What do you mean? Well, our X chromosome, um, which Brother Sean, if he was in here, would scream, "We get that from the woman." You're right. I hope he chimes in a little bit later, Brother Sean Johnson. But our X chromosomes have been literally capped in terms of their regeneration process, causing them to only be able to continue to regenerate for up to 120 years. So a healthy human being, not suffering from all of the external toxins and the external harmful electromagnetic fields that we find ourselves constantly immersed in, and all the other harmful things that end up reducing our lifespans even from that. But if we were completely healthy, as currently constructed, you could only live up to 120 years or so and you would die because you're genetically capped off that way. That was an artificial process. Do you hear me? We're not designed that way. Physicists, along with geneticists, have had conversation and experimentation about this, right? We are not designed to die in 120 years. If it were not for our telomeres being capped, and if we lived a fairly healthy lifestyle, human beings would, in fact, be living the kind of lifespans that you see referred to biblically in other scripture, right? We could easily live to 800-900 years old, and probably we could fairly easily eclipse 1,000 years. Now, folks, I know that seems far-fetched and pretty incredible for you, but we're thinking in the scale that we've been indoctrinated into thinking. Okay? Because think about it, it's much more manageable or much more feasible to manage, control, and manipulate a population that dies at a set time frame that you can not only predict, but that you could keep limited to a certain range. Okay? Now, I'm not going to get into who did the genetic manipulation until another podcast, but that's going to be a good one. I assure you. But yes, do the research and look into it, folks. We don't have to die, certainly at the ages and the lifespan that we do now, 60, 70, 80 years. It's actually quite ridiculous. Our bodies are just not designed to fail in that way. The way we're living now, we're like bad used cars. Okay? We're like used cars that never had the oil changed the way it was supposed to get changed regularly and didn't have the other maintenance and upkeep. So we fail far sooner than we should. Right? When in reality, not only should we be like the car that stays on the road for 10, 15 years and gives pretty good usage and little mechanical failure to the owner, but we should be like that miracle car that one of my neighbors from up top in Penn Hills, I saw still driving literally 30 years later. This guy still got the same Jeep. It was just, let's just say it was an interesting surprise to see that Jeep still running, right? And I talked to him several times about his upkeep methodology, and it's generally just doing what you're supposed to do for the vehicle. The regular oil changes and everything else that you're supposed to do, not putting into it what you're not supposed to put into it, and putting into it what you're supposed to put into it. Folks, what kind of results would we find if we did that with our own bodies? If we were not so addicted to putting so many foreign things into our body that are not suitable or not viable to be compatible with a human body. But we seem stubbornly addicted to doing that and expecting good health. So much so that we try to take a shortcut and run to the doctor to get that pill. That's what you do. Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we do when we feel certain ailments or illnesses or things that we in fact have brought on ourselves by our diet and our lifestyle, our stressful lifestyle, which, folks, I will remind you is one of the number one killers. Wait a minute. Just think about that. Stress is intangible, is it not? There's no actual disease called stress, but yet it's one of the number one killers of people. How and why is that? Because, as I stated to you folks, consciousness is a major player in physics, and that is not an exception made when it comes to the physics of your body. Believe you me, that the limitations that we perceive about ourselves, well, it's impossible for a human being to do this. It's impossible for a human being to do that. Folks, I've seen geneticists and physicists have conversations recently where they've debunked the old adage that brain cells die and it's impossible for you to regenerate them. No, it's not. It's not. Do the free thinking research, and you have this is where knowledge is dangerous to a degree, because you'll have people right now, I guarantee you, who would argue me up and down. It's impossible for brain cells to regrow, even though it's been demonstrated experimentally that it is possible. Why are they so vehement in thinking that? Because that is the effectiveness of indoctrination, especially when it is relative to the limitations that through perception we have begun to believe about ourselves. All right? Folks, you have been shrunken in your perception of yourself, what you are. We talked about the fact that there are important organs and major systems in our bodies that we don't even get taught about in school. How many times have we had conversations about why don't they talk about your pineal organ in school if it's this important to you and it's this profound and fundamental in your experiential, development? Why is this something we don't learn about, that we have to become adults and do research to find out about? It's because of the indoctrination in place to keep you thinking you are less than what you are, the human being, the man, woman, whatever you want to say, this corporeal vessel that our light bodies, that our spiritual bodies have incarnated into. This corporeal physical being is magnificent. It is not frail and flawed. The limitations that we have in our minds of things that we can't do or that are impossible are false. They are artificial and they're taught to you. Do you not think about how the nails on your hand grow? Do you not think about how you have suffered? If I know myself, if I look down just at my arms, right, I can see like a litany of scars reminding me of how reckless I was with my physical vessel when I was younger. Sometimes I was even self-destructive. Me and a cousin who I won't name used to play a game where we would take and put our arms together and put a lit cigarette there and let it burn as a to see who's tougher. It's really to see who's the bigger fool. But anyway, we were doing that, in our tough guy phase, and we were so set at beating one another that we would just keep our arms there in pain until the cigarette would burn out. And I got scars on my arm to prove how we used to do that, right? I could go on and on about different things that I did that were foolish, where I literally damaged my body. I mean, I've had ugly scars that look like I should have for the rest of my life. But now at 50, I can look back and barely even notice that it's there. How? Because of our body's ability to regenerate at the cellular level. The one thing I want you to stop, folks, for a moment and think about is, why is it limited? Why can it do this, but it can't do that? How come you can regrow this perfectly fine and completely, but you can't regrow that perfectly fine and completely? Because these limitations are not real. And the more you cognize that, meaning the more you can incorporate it into your belief system beyond the point of physical requisite, the more you actually know it to be so, the more you can begin to implement controlled healing in your body. I used to have pains, various different types of pains that I would go through sleepless nights about, right? And okay, folks, if we want to get at it, into it, know that there are light workers such as myself around the world who are targets, daily targets of dark, nefarious forces, sometimes individuals or groups, right? Oh, folks. There are folks, so there's witches and warlocks out here peeping light workers and attempting to do their little backward little spells or whatnot in a harmful manner. What they don't understand or know is that when you get to this level of consciousness, your spiritual technologies far, far exceed that old paradigm magic. Far exceed. That when you make consciousness connection with the creative source within you, the spiritual technologies that you develop far exceed any of that. Right? So, getting back to me, I used to wake up at times under these attacks. And I know I won't get too far into that because it's esoteric and it's really like just a trifle to me. At this stage, it was a time when it wasn't, obviously, but I would wake up at night as though somebody had a doll somewhere poking it with needles, and they probably did. and in a way, I'm grateful for it. Now, why would you say something like that, King? Because it taught me to cry out spiritually to my creator and to learn through that connection that I control my body at every level, down to the subatomic level, the neutrino level. And through that consciousness of control, I learned to be able to shut pains down and shut them off in my body. There are some things that I can do that most people can't do. And I won't go too far into that, but yeah. And there are others on the planet who can show you and do things that would blow your mind. Things that you would think are impossible, but people do it. How and why? Why do you look at these what are they called? Oh my goodness, it's the tip of my tongue. These magicians, like a David Blaine or somebody like that, right? Just throwing his name out there. Nothing in particular about him. No need to sue me, folks. But why are we so fantasized, so like taken in by them? Because they show you things that you thought to be physical limitations or things that you would characterize as impossible to be done by a human being. Why are they able to do it? Because they know the same things I know. They have the same understanding about human consciousness and its control over the physical realm, its ability. They know that human beings have the ability to interact with, nay, to dictate to the quantum field through our intentions, through our conscious intentions. They understand that most human beings are walking around only dictating to the quantum field from their subconscious. Thus, the things that they do appear to be impossible and things that could not be done or performed by an average human being. But they do it. Why? Why can one of them take a needle this long and stick it through their arm and fairly thick and stick it through their arm and pull it right back out without a speck of blood or a gaping hole in their arm? Because that's something human beings can do. Why are there Tibetan monks that can walk damn near sideways up a wall? Excuse my language. Why are there individuals who can perform incredible feats of strength? We've even heard about mothers lifting cars, right, in extreme situations of danger to save like their children. Well, I mean, if it's impossible, it's impossible, right? If it can't be done, it can't be done. Don't tell me that, oh, it can't be done except the fact that it can be done. I could go on and on about plenty of things that have been witnessed, things that human beings have done that we still tell ourselves are impossible. How is that even logical? How do I see Joe do something and then a year later there's a situation where I might need to do the same thing but tell myself, oh, this is impossible, even though I saw Joe do it a year ago? Because we're indoctrinated to think this way. It falls right into the indoctrination patterns of the socially economic elite who know better. Oh, you think they don't know all about the Kundalini awakening and how to eat properly and superfoods and elongated lifespans and things of that nature? You think they don't know anything about that? Folks, the trick has been them keeping you from knowing. That's been the trick. Well, we ain't getting tricked no more. It's time for us to wake up and realize we are magnificent, and the limitations in healing and the limitations of what is possible for a human being to do are false, they are artificial, and they have been taught to you. It is indoctrination that you can reverse just like any other. And the mechanism is knowledge and the fact of you cognizing it to the point that you don't just believe it, you know it. and then putting it into action. If you know that there is a certain way that you can eat that would cause your body to begin to have better organ function, then folks, do it. Or find some way to do it. You don't have to adhere to like my strict recommendation of a diet. Find a healthy diet that works for you. If there's a way that you can have such great health and such great cellular activity in your body that you can extend to at least the current minimum or maximum, should I say, of 120 years rather than 60, 70, or 80, then do it. Don't tell yourself, oh, I'm lucky if I live to be 75. Then you know what? The second you say it out of your mouth, your ears hear it and your body believes it. That is true with just about anything that you want from your body. Your body is listening to you. So when you walk around all day talking about your aches and pains and that you're getting old and this and that and that and this, that's going to leave your body in a rut and begin to fail, then it will. Because you just told it to. You're the boss of you, of all of you. The limitations that you perceive and believe are there are false and they're taught to you. This is indoctrination, folks, and we can break it. Evidence of other humans breaking it is plentiful. So if they can, why can't you? Are you some lower class human being, some substandard or subgenetic human being who's just not capable of doing things that those better human beings are capable of? Is that the case? No. You are just as magnificent as any other human being or any other being for that matter. Don't accept those limitations. All right, folks. I can go on for days about this one. I told you I've been thinking about it for 3-4 decades. But now I want to hear what y'all got to say. Please, I want to hear what you got to say and what you think about these limitations that have been forced upon us and forced into our minds and into our consciousness. Because it's indoctrination that we can surely shed. Please, folks, chime in and let me hear what you got to say. Let's grow together. Let's have another one of those fantastic conversations that we tend to have. Brother T, chime on in. Brother Sean, chime in. Ma V, please holler at me one time. Somebody tell me something about what you think about these limitations that have been indoctrinated into us. Holler at me one time, folks. I'm going to give y'all a few minutes to think about it and to chime in to the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm a replenish myself a little bit physically and get ready to partake of the brethren, sister and brethren, right? And we can continue to build, man, because we need to build, right? Let's continue to build this new world paradigm, this worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. All right. Come on, folks. Holler at me and chime in one time. I'm going to wait on you. And in the meantime, pardon me. What I will do is play for you one of my songs that I would say really brings to light, or at least outlines rather efficiently, what the socially economic elite have done along the way as they have indoctrinated us. So listen to this. I believe I played it before for y'all, but please listen to this. This song is called The Repeater, right? And it's got a little length to it. It had to, right? We can't say this. I know they got our attention spans dialed down a minute and a half, but bear with me for a couple of minutes, folks, and listen to this song, The Repeater, in its entirety, and hear the information that I'm sharing with you, right? Because we have been indoctrinated on numerous levels. And part of what we're talking about today, or in fact, what we're talking about with one another today, is how that indoctrination has placed in our mind limitations on healing and on what a human being can or cannot do that are artificial, that are false, that are taught to you, that is indoctrination that we can break. So one time for you, go ahead, folks, and listen to The Repeater.
Hi, Forbes Riley here. Like many of you,
Not, and then of course they try to
I learned that toxins can be stored in the body for years.
listen to The Repeater, folks. I hope you can hear that. Please holler at me. Brother T, Brother Sean, Marv, anybody else that's in here, please come on and holler at me. I love to hear what you got to say.
Government ain't run by the people you elect in elections. That's just for fun. They just move you through the motions with that Eisenhower spew. Shadow government's a true. President Kennedy knew America as we know it is not a country at all. It's a corporate monstrosity that is destined to fall. When the real United States suffered its greatest depression, what did those desperate leaders do to stop us? The real question. International banking system, where the Fed come from? Why do international bankers tell our country to run? Who controls our resources and the military's might? They're all just puppets, politicians on the left and the right. Only select few bloodlines control the world.
Listen, hey. Thank you, my dear daughter. Thank you, truly. Appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts on the limitations that have been placed on us, that have been indoctrinated into us, limiting our perception of our own ability to heal, limiting our perception of what it is that is possible or not possible for a human being to do.
Segments of the population quick, agriculturally spreading famine in the calcified mix. That's it. All
hope y'all can hear that. Listen, please.
Religions and our education sucks. We stuck, erupt with a call for justice. Vengeance ain't the same thing. We better now so trust it. Bubble busted them false stereotypes in society. Elites want to murder us all, race regardless quietly. Try and see exactly what I mean. Be the juggernaut rolling down the road of inspiration. Plug another thought. Know what I got from this process? We can all adopt peace, love, respect. Take it all the time. It all the time. It all the time. It's the repeater. It's the repeater. The real heater. The one that set it off and blowing off the meters. It's the repeater. It's the repeater. The real speaker. The one with mad knowledge. Do you brothers and tweeters? It's the mental health in this country's a criminal endeavor. Sick how they take your natural freedom so clever. Barbarically using shock therapy, white coat thugs. Unethical doctors, experimental psychoactive drugs. They snatch you right out the ER. Just say you're combative, no crime ever committed, but they take you captive. Ever seen again? Maybe vegetative state.
They do that, folks. I know.
Courtesy of the state. Depopulation plans of the elites, not even hit. Even called writing the Georgia Guidestones warning given. They really living in the matrix.
They blew up the Georgia Guidestones, folks.
You
Wonder why.
Okay, then go ahead and get your mind right and say no waiting around for no halos. It's the repeater, the real heater, the one that set it off and blow them off the meter.
Why were the Georgia Guidestones destroyed? Think about it.
The real heater, the one that set it off and blow them off the meters. It's the repeater, the real speaker, the one with mad knowledge, blue covers and tweeters. It's the repeater.
All right, folks. I hope y'all enjoyed that. I hope you heard it. I hope you enjoyed it. Within and out, if anybody else is in here with me, please holler back at me about that subject matter. It's a profound one indeed. Indeed. And y'all, just so you know, there's no competition. But my folks on my rumble.com platform are eating this up. And they kind of the participation levels up there. By the way, what I'm one of the things that I am looking to get into doing is simulcasting. If I can properly work out how to do that, where I can go live both on YouTube and rumble.com at the same time. So I'm working on that. Let's see if we can get that going. All right, folks. I'm gonna wait. I would love to hear, especially on this subject matter, I would love to hear, Brother T, what you got to say about it. Maybe a question or any kind of a comment. Brother Sean, if you're still in here with me, Ma V, holla at me, sis. You know we love to hear your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding when you speak it or type it in. Isha, please, baby, give me something that you might feel, question, comment, relative to this subject matter. This is a profound one. And the reason I mentioned my rumble.com channel is because, folks, I know that this is the kind of subject matter that they're just clamoring for, right? Because it references something that the socially economic elite have put in place to directly impact us in a way that we want to counteract or relieve ourselves of in appropriate ways, right? All right. Folks, come on in. If you have a comment or something that you want to chime in and say, referencing or relative to today's subject matter, which again is very important and profound, please be sure that you holler at me. Now I'm waiting on you. I love to get that input. Listen, it makes me grow. It helps me grow and feeds me and all of us that we grow together in this forum. So please tell me what you think. We got Brother Sean Johnson chiming in once again. Thank you, family. I hope that you saw the subject matter, brother. This is a profound one, and I love to hear your opinion directly about this. In that we are indoctrinated in so many ways to place limitations in our mind and our perception and our consciousness around our healing, our ability to heal ourselves, and in general about what is possible and what human beings or what people are capable of. Please chime in and give me some feedback on that, Brother Sean. I love to hear from you. And one love indeed. It always is. True that. For anybody who don't know, Brother Sean is a longtime friend of mine, very longtime friend of mine, and a very true and reliable and dear friend who I appreciate tremendously, and who has some very powerful and informed opinions that I love to get on this subject. So holla at me, brother. Tell me what you think about this. I really do, and would love to hear what you got to say about it. Heather, thank you, Heather, for being with us today. So fantastic for you to join us, and you as well, having I know your own testimonial that you can offer, right? Relevant to healing and the infinite potential that we possess to do so much in contrast to what we have been indoctrinated to believe. So thank you, Heather. Heather says hello. I left my phone at my shop. I just retrieved it. Welcome, baby. Thank you for being with us. I love that you chimed in. Thank you so much, dear. All right, brother Sean says to us, thank you, man. Thank you for rolling the conversation forward. Knowing that we only use 10% of our brain power, we're limited on that aspect alone. Once all brain power is reached, a whole new world opens up. Now, for anybody who doesn't know thank you very much, Sean. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. All right. But for anybody who may not be familiar with what Sean is referring to, I know for decades that we have been told. We even were taught this in school. At least I know I was, that human beings only utilize about 10% of our brain's capacity, or 10% of its potential. I'm going to go even, and Heather, excuse me, Sean jumps back in and says, "You're not only a friend, you're my brother from another mother." That is so appreciate. So I appreciate, bruh. You hear me right here, man. You know that. You know I love you, man. You know we are one. And we're going to stay on this path together and continue this mission of building this worldwide movement, peace, love, respect, where we get to wake folks up and help them continue to wake us up. And we're waking each other up and growing and expanding and spiritually maturing all the while. So truly, brother, believe me when I say I am honored to be in this experience with you. Thank you, my brother. And that goes for all of you. Sister Heather, my wonderful daughter, Isha, Ma V, Brother Sean Anchor, Brother T, everybody. Shout out to my man Jordan. Sean, I ain't forget him this week. Me and Sean are both friends with a brother named Jordan who works down at the same place Brother T works at. So shout out. I forgot about shouting him out last week, but not this week. But again, getting back to what Sean was saying, we have been told that for years. And I would take it a step further and add that we now understand about our own DNA, that we have not even been fully expressing what our DNA is. Right? Most of us are walking around with DNA that is only expressing itself in the 30th percentile, right? Somewhere around 30% or somewhere between 30 and 35%, right? Is where most of us are walking around. Now, folks, just stop and think for a moment. Where else in your lives would you accept 33% of performance, 33% or 30% or 35% for that matter of efficiency from anything in your life? If you bought a car and it was only 30% effective, you'd be running back to the car lot screaming about they sold you a lemon. If you bought a computer that was only operating at 35% of what it was supposed to, you'd be running back to the store to take it back. If you bought some clothes that weren't anywhere, that were anything less than 100% of what you want them to be, you'd be running to take it back, folks. Why do we accept this about ourselves? Again, we are magnificent, right? This is why I'm not going to go off on this side tangent, but this is why today's version of AI doesn't make any sense, and why future generations of AI will be far more sophisticated and beneficial to humanity, to people, okay? Because today's version of AI has been built and developed by people, human beings, who have such a low opinion of and perception of what it is to be a person or a human being, right? The people who look at, who first of all, many of which do not even like people, if you stop and think about how like harmful that is, but it's based on a perception that is completely flawed. Why do I say that? Because the perception is essentially a judgment that's being rendered on something that is incomplete. How can you judge what a human being is, or what the true potential of a human being or a person is, right? Based on only 30 to 35% of what a human being or a person actually even is. And then to develop an artificial intelligence to surpass that 35%, why would you do that rather than going back in the lab to increase from 35% to 100% or as close to 100% as we could get? Why are we not learning more about ourselves? Why are we not looking into what our potential is? It gets to me. Gets to me a little bit, folks. Thank you for chiming in and saying truth, Heather. We certainly, yes, it is. And we have to move out of that paradigm, right? First, we need to recognize that it's a paradigm we were put into, that we were indoctrinated into, and then we can see ourselves move out of it, right? And then we'll see many benefits occur as a result of that, as we move out of that paradigm and as out of that stagnated level of consciousness, then we can see things like a healthy and productive generation or version of AI be produced, and et cetera, et cetera. So many things we can, will, and are going to do. On the horizon, excuse me, the future is bright and beautiful in that capacity. Okay, it truly is. Anybody else that wants to chime in on that? I'm gonna revisit what Brother Sean was saying, in that, yeah, we like I said, we are walking around with DNA that is nowhere near its complete efficiency or efficacy, right? Meaning that there is, so let's say you happen to be at the higher range and you're walking around at 35% or even 40%, which there likely are some people who are. But even if you're at 40%, folks, that means that there's 60% of you that's not even effective, that's not even like activated, right? Think about, we have to process this, folks. We really need to digest how much more of ourselves there is to uncover. I think that's a good way to put it. How much more of ourselves there is to uncover. And folks, I haven't even talked about what potentials we could see as we, increase the amount of spiritual energy that we can incorporate into our corporeal being. And that happens when you increase and move into higher consciousness, right? It is one of those benefits. One of those benefits is that we can see increased DNA efficacy, right? That is one of the benefits of higher consciousness, which is a subsequent benefit of more spiritual energy being incorporated into your corporeal being, right? That's one of the incredible and profound benefits. We need to reap that in. That's a check we need to cash, right? We definitely need to reap that in. But this is profound. Think about the profundity of this, folks. We now know for a fact that as dope and as magnificent as this is, as we have been able to see of ourselves so far, there's so much more yet for us to be that we can and should be. You are magnificent and just don't know it. Right? Folks, we really need to cognize this, which again means that we need to incorporate this into a level of belief that is independent of and not hinging upon physical proof, that is not reliant on and restricted to 3D, 4D parameters of what we would identify as evidence or proof, right? Because indeed, when you know it on a conscious level, you know it in a transcendent level that is beyond the limitations of 3D, 4D perception, right? You now understand it at a multidimensional level. It's part of you, right? Man, I love this one. I do. Marvin, you still in here with us, sister? And please chime in. Build with us one time. Anybody else who has something to say, a comment, a question, a statement, something that they want to make or say about the fact that we are taught and indoctrinated, have indoctrinated into us so many limitations that are simply not so, right? Tell me what you think about that, folks. Tell me what you think about that. And the potentials of transcending it is where we can start to go with that. I gave you some ways in which we can enter into that, right? Most profoundly, it's about moving into a higher consciousness. As we do that, folks, so many things open up. And that might not seem viable, right? You might say, well, what's my consciousness got to do with like my life, the things I'm going through, or certainly with my own physical body, like my conscience. But do the free thinking research and see that there is a plethora of experimental findings and evidentiary findings that support the fact that human consciousness is a powerful player in physics and certainly incredibly impactful on your own very DNA. So, higher consciousness is the way of it, folks. It's the way of it. And we got to embrace that to move forward, right? That's what this is all about. While we're in this comfy little this little spot here, well, we haven't stopped. We're still moving. That while we're in this area that we're passing through right now on our solar system's galactic orbit around the center of the galaxy, right? That's what we're here for, folks. That's why we're being exposed to these energies so that we can grow, expand, and move into much, much higher consciousness, right? And enjoy all of the benefits about that. And tangibly for all of us, for you and your family, that means that we can change this world, that we are changing this world, that we are moving into and cementing in a new paradigm, right? A paradigm that we can enjoy, that our families can enjoy, that we can move forward into a paradigm, a high vibrational frequency paradigm, and I like to call it a paradigm of peace, love, respect. Truly, truly. So please, folks, anybody else with any subject matter, or excuse me, with any comment or question or statement, any input that you might have on today's subject matter, anything that you have that you are thinking or want to say about how we have been indoctrinated with so many limitations that simply are not real, how we have been made to believe that we are so less than what we actually are, right? Please chime in. Holla at me, folks. I love to hear it. Please holla at me. I'm gonna give that a little bit of time. Get ready to introduce the brethren, sister and brethren into the events here, right? And today is the 11th, by the way, one of my favorite master numbers, right? Truly the number that is representative of when we broach mastery. And when I say broaching mastery, I'm referring to self-mastery, right? Which in my eyes is the only true mastery worth attaining for me, okay? To me, the most important 3 words ever: know thyself. All right, come on, folks. Holla at me. Can I talk to you? Don't let me jump into some mint condition on y'all. Come on, folks. Maybe what I will do is go ahead and play one more of my songs while I give this last opportunity. So this is it, folks. This last opportunity for anybody else to chime in. And I'm not trying to say that because I want to close out. I'm really looking forward to hear what you folks have to say. Please just jump in the chat and tell me what you're thinking so I can relay it to everybody else and we can build together. That's why you're here. You're building with Big King. All right, let's go with apropos, since I'm bringing in the brethren, sister and brethren. Listen to the song Vibing High. All right. I hope y'all can hear that. Vibe with me. Uh-huh. Come on. One time. Okay. Yeah. You see the smoke starting to come on the screen now. You know what time it is, folks. Let's build with each other for real. Come on now. Once again, a reminder, disclaimer, this is definitely an adult forum. An adult forum that supports free thinking and open opinions. There's no filtering, no censorship. We just shoot straight from the hip, folks. And for that matter, we let this be a fully adult format where we can all get together as adults, talk to one another, and build. Right? True that. We can always support any negative thought or action before it even happens. With the help of Lady Green Beauty or Mr. Bomb Bud,
Marijuana people, tell me who you really love. When we pass the weed, we pass the knowledge too. There's always a conversation there for me and you. That's how we do, and high vibrations keep it true.
No deception, keeping things short and sweet for you, like King Sadiq would do.
Like King Sadiq would do. Dig, vibe with me, smoke with me, get high with me, get high with me. Vibe get high, vibe get high, vibe get high, vibe get high, get high with me, shine with me, fly with me, fly with me. Vibe get high, vibe get high, vibe get high. Awaken early morning, prayers as I rise, energy ascending, the sun is in my eyes. Hit the bathroom to freshen my physical expression. I'm feeling no stress, I'm just so blessed. Saturday is arrived, I want to socialize. I
Saturday.
Peaceful explosive vibe. As for my dress today, it's an impressive splice between comfort from me and something ladies think is nice. I think it smelled it twice. Ain't that aroma nice? I'm so ready for smoking. Select the part that's right. Plug a quarter ounce straight from my tree of life. Gotta smoke that with my tribe. We leave them on sight. They say variety, really that's the spice of life. We put up.
Ain't that funny about how I smoke? When I get the Dizzy Gillespie cheeks, me and my man Den Skizzy developed that back in the day. It's just a trait we developed while smoking.
Smoke with me, get high with me, get high with me. Vibe get high, vibe get high.
Yeah.
Vibe get high, vibe get high, get high with me, shine with me, fly with me, fly with me. Vibe get high, vibe get high, vibe get high, vibe get high.
All right, folks. Well, going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, man. I guess that's it for this week. Listen, folks, please understand and know that from my heart, I thank you and I love you all. Truly. Thank you so much for coming in another time and building with Big King, right? And I sure hope to see you next weekend. Or excuse me, not next weekend. Next Saturday at 7. I sure hope to hear from you and to see you and have you come and build with Big King again. Thank you. This has been another episode of Building with Big King. I truly appreciate you all. I love you. And thank you for helping me to build the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq, out.